Cool. So what I'll do, because I'm conscious whilst we try and be accommodating for people to join a little bit late at the same time, we've also got, 30, 34, 35 people here that have already put their time in. So what I'll do is I'll start off with an introduction. Sorry, something in my throat. Excuse me. So we'll start off. I'll just run through what the agenda looks like today in terms of today's session, and then by that point we're going to go through the agenda. Then, and if anyone's kind of missed the intro, then they'll kind of know what's going on just by being here. So welcome. I can see a lot of people here that I actually know from the protocol, and they're obviously suckers for punishment because they're going to hear the MDB introduction and overview for maybe the millionth time. But there's many new faces here as well, which we're super excited about. I feel like a huge emotional connection. I can see Leo is here as well from O0ze, and he's heard this 3 or 4 times in the last week. I have such an emotional connection with Gravity because it came from such a personal place for me. I could see a challenge within the space, both for holders and also for project leaders. And it's an incredibly challenging space, and it's made even more challenging in the bear market. It's incredibly risky. There's always a lot of trial and error in an environment like this, and I noticed that there wasn't really a constructive sort of way of maybe closing things down for both holders and also for the people that have run the project as well. And I can also tell you, having been on this side for 6 months, it's not easy running a project, right? It's always 10 times the amount of work that you thought it was going to be, and it's huge pressure at the same time. So Gravity is really there to, when something has reached its natural conclusion, it's there to offer a new beginning for people within the protocol. I think community is a huge part of crypto. It's a huge part of DeFi, and there's just so much value in people coming together. But at the same time, it's also a very difficult and can be a stressful time for the team themselves as well. So Gravity is really there to kind of help both, and offer a different solution to what I could see before. I'd been in projects at the very end, and I could I was thinking to myself, well, what are the options for a project leader at this point? And it's not great. So we wanted to solve that problem. So so welcome. That's obviously the trigger for bringing you here. The agenda for today: I'm going to give you an introduction to the team. I'm also going to give you a rundown of what does the MDB ecosystem look like. I suppose what our strategy is, and our ambition as well for the organization, and where we're going moving forward. We'll talk a little bit about the process, which has been moving very swimmingly. I think it's an absolute pleasure to work with the O0ze team, to be completely honest, and things are moving very smoothly, and we seem to be sort of well on track, if not well ahead of track actually, and we should be able to give some more definitive answers. We'll talk a bit about the process. I'll try and then open up really and use up the rest of the time just to answer any questions. I do want to anyone that's already in the MDB community, I do want those questions to be focused on for people that are new to the community that are coming in, and obviously if there's a million questions in AMA questions, you'll see that on the left hand side. Then anyone from the community, if somebody wants to buy sell tax, then any help from the community just to answer those simple questions would be much appreciated as well. Cool. Okay, so if you just joined in the last 2 minutes, and you probably don't know what the agenda is, but I've just covered that. And now I'm going to run through an introduction to the team. We're then going to walk through the protocol, and then we'll talk a bit about the Gravity process, and then open up for questions. I suppose an introduction to the team. So myself, my name's Danny. I always feel a little bit embarrassed because the Godfather is an alias that came from a community vote. The community voted to call me $1 Million Daddy, which I was pretty uncomfortable with, to be honest. I've got my own kids, and I don't want anyone else calling me daddy. And so a compromise was the Godfather just before I was doxxed. I'm now doxxed, and and it's Danny. So I don't really think in The Godfather is like sort of a reflection of how I see myself. That's kind of the story behind it. My background, sort of age wise, I'm pushing my late 30s, not far from 40. I've got broad range of business experience. I'm very passionate about industries that I see that are very disruptive. So I've worked in energy and sustainability. I ran an electric vehicle charging business for a Fortune 500 company across a few markets. I have worked in additive manufacturing, or commonly known as 3D printing, in the software space. And I've been investing in crypto for a while, and was quite frustrated, to be honest. I think I see huge opportunity. I see huge opportunity for disruption, as I said, but at the same time, I also saw it was a very challenging space for investors, despite the opportunity that existed. So I basically then set about with a problem statement, which was really why do most projects fail, and then thought about the qualities that I see within the space. And basically, MDB was born off the back of that, which stands for Make DeFi Better. So, it's an ecosystem of different tokens, and we have a couple of NFTs as well, utility NFTs. And yeah, that's how MDB was born. And I suppose my experience also runs across sort of the startup and investment space as well. So from a mainstream perspective, it's pretty broad. If you go into, there's a Meet the Team channel actually within the Discord. You'll see within Meet the Team that we've obviously many other team members as well. So one of our co-founders and CMO is commonly known as Mina. Her name is Alice. And she's, we're always really hands-on, right? There is not a day that we're not in the community chatting. And then we've got, a broader team. So Syrian, who's our community manager. We've got Apex, who's the Millionaires Club manager. The Millionaires Club is just, it's our private members group. It doesn't actually cost anything to join. You just have to hold at least $500 worth of MDB at that point in time. So if you bought it and it was $100 and it's appreciated 5x, then that's okay, right? And it's your MDB, you don't lose it, and that gets you access to the private members club. There's giveaways, you get alpha, you get early access to new products when we launch them, and we do the giveaways. Really, if you were in the server yesterday, you probably would have seen sort of it gets a little bit out of hand, to be honest, as we give away sort of 3 times $1,000 every month, randomly selected from Millionaires Club members. There's loads of benefits there, and Apex manages that. And then we've got Adam, who manages sort of our treasury and financial side as well. And then on our ops team, then leading there, we have Harley, also on the ops team. There's lots of other people, so mods like Tio and Bin and Riskies that support us across the platform as well. So across, I suppose, the operational team, I would say there's like 6 of us, and then there's a broader team around that, which brings it up to sort of 9-10 people. Okay, happy to answer any questions, by the way, at this point. So it's not just sort of me just talking away. If anyone's got any questions about the team before we start to move into sort of MDB as a protocol, you've got AMA questions on the left hand side. Like, please don't be shy. No questions out of bounds. If you've got any questions about me or the team, then feel free to put it in there and break up just the silly gifs that are in there at the moment. Oh, we got a question. This is exciting. How many kids? So my name's not Adam, it's Danny. But yeah, fair question. I have 3 children. So one a bit older because I've been around the block a bit, and 2 younger, which the age of one makes me feel old, and the other 2 genuinely make me feel old because they're young and so lively. Yeah, but look, we're very personable, very approachable as a team as well. So, and if we don't want to ask a question, we'll always be very straight and just say no. We don't want to answer that. So, feel free to approach us sort of any time. So it's just more silly gifts that are coming in. If no one else has got any questions about the team, I think maybe I'll talk a bit about the structure of the team actually. So. In my early days in crypto, like probably the single biggest value that I saw within the space quite often, I was in, I bought Doge pretty early, right, and which is looking crazy at the moment, but it's rough most of the time. And I bought SafeMoon as well, and I could see in these projects that you the community was just huge. It was just a really, really valuable asset, and we wanted that to be really central to what we do. So that's why we've got the Millionaires Club. That's why we designed a protocol that delivers the most value to the people that are in it the longest. And people can short-term speculate if they like, of course, but then they're not going to, hurt the future prospects of other people by, buying and selling MDB. So the structure within the community. So we have a role within the community called Millionaire Maestro, and that's something that can only be earned. And that's because you're helpful with other community members. Most of our largest holders, actually, there's very few protocols can say this, where most of their top 10 holders are active in the Discord every single day, answering questions, talking to new people. And that's very much our community. So Millionaire Maestro is something that Syrian, he's the guy that gives out that role. And it's something that's earned by being, active, present, supportive. And we're very big on, we want people to walk in every day completely fresh and get a really positive and welcoming experience. And so that's earned. If people are ambitious and they'd like to offer something to the team, then we do have, you do have the ability to open a ticket. We've got, community members who do marketing for us. We've had community members who do, other support services, albeit from a mod point of view, we're relatively light on mods because of the structure of our community. Actually, it does self-moderate most of the time. But if somebody long-term had ambitions to be a mod, then we actually wouldn't consider any sort of paid mods unless they'd been a Millionaire Maestro first. And that really just is in keeping with ours as a project, right? Most of the YouTubers that cover us are holders, or everyone in the team is a holder. Like, everybody has like serious skin in the game, and the same goes for our community. But hopefully that offers, and the silly gifts continue, that offers a bit of insight. So there's no if there's no other sensible questions, which it looks like there isn't, then what I would do is I'll run through what MDB is in the ecosystem, okay, and the background to MDB. So if you kind of want to walk this through with me, if you go to mdb.fund on our website and you select the D app, you'll see all of our assets on Xenia. Now, Xenia is the Greek goddess of giving. So Alice is very good at coming up with branding. I would say it's probably one of her biggest strengths. And yeah, so we have these cool names for things. So Xenia is the Greek goddess of giving, and that's the name of our D app. And that's where you'll see all of our assets, where you can claim your rewards, where you can, track performance of those assets as well. All of it will be found within Xenia. The way we're structured, really, so if you start from the top, we have obviously everything in the ecosystem technically, whether it's an NFT or stable backed asset, as a token. But when we say token, we mean it's a token that sits on a traditional AMM using an LP function that most of you will be used to. We have two main tokens within the ecosystem. So MDB, if you like, is like a share within the ecosystem. It's relatively high tax, so it's 10% tax in, and it's 15% tax to sell. But I suppose with that tax, what you're doing is you're buying into a token that is backed by a significant fund. The fund has actually been doing very well the last few days. So we don't include, not including sort of liquidity that's come across with O0ze, which obviously is to acquire supply and then distribute out to you guys. Our fund has actually just drifted over 2.5 million in the last few days with the push. We've got exposure to ETH and BNB. And the fund is invested across a range of different assets. We've got some trading bots in there. We have stable-backed assets. We've got pools, farms. Some do very well. Sometimes, it's more challenging. We have, an investment, for instance, in yield nodes, which obviously has a big question mark over it at the moment. However, the CEO of yield nodes is actually an investor in MDB. And whenever we do partnerships, we typically work really hard to make sure they're very reciprocal. So very rarely will you find that we've just invested in another protocol without there being some sort of strategic tying there, where there's a real win-win for both organisations, and it's much more than just transactional, which you've probably seen with EMP. EMP did their first purchase today for their utility NFTs, which is something they'll be doing daily, which is amazing. And the purchase was $4,800 of MDB. So we can expect there or thereabouts daily going forward, just from that one utility alone. So MDB is relatively high tax, but it is backed by a big fund. So when you're paying that 10% tax to buy into it, you're buying into a big backing that other people's tax have already contributed to, right? And then when you sell, then you're paying the 15% tax again. You've got the benefit of that fund backing you up, but when you leave the party, or if you choose to leave the party, then you leave a little bit behind, and that's how the system remains sustainable and supports itself long term. Our tokens are built on top of this system that I designed, which is we call capital synergy, and basically one thing I did is when I suppose trying to understand why most protocols struggle, and certainly tokens themselves struggle, I did a lot of research into liquidity pools and AMMs. And what I found with AMMs was that they really exploit the human psyche, right? We see a chart, it just booms up, it looks super exciting, it looks because it gets faster and faster, time actually almost speeds up. And that's because of the way an AMM curve works. And that is it's quite corruptive actually to the human psychology, because that creates FOMO, and then you ape in, and when you ape in, then that AMM curve gets even sharper. So the speed of acceleration gets faster and faster. But then the reverse also happens. So if you get a big sell on an AMM curve, then it crashes down really fast. So knowing this, I designed MDB around this system called capital synergy. So we went to the market, we raised 1.8 million, we put 1.5 million into the trust fund. So we started at 1.5 million. We, had some challenging, BNB just absolutely crashed straight after we launched. So it's been challenging, but despite all of that, we're still growing the trust fund by about $1 million. And we put 300K. And it was really important that we started with this 5-to-1 ratio. So it meant that the trust fund was 5 times the size of the liquidity pool. And what this means is that because of the ratios between the market cap, the liquidity pool, and the trust fund, it means that we've basically got the system which is about having a pot of cash in the middle of, imagine like a football stadium, and each token is like a ticket to the game. It's like a seat in the stadium. And the way our system is designed, that if there was a huge crash in MDB, the fund would be exponentially worth so much more than the LP, that it could A, have a big impact on helping to recover the price, but B, also burn a huge amount of supply. So if you saw a 95% crash in MDB from, say, a 10 million market cap, without breaking a sweat, the trust fund could literally take out double digits in percentage terms of its own supply, right? So it could even buy up half of the supply at those sorts of levels, which would have a huge recovery on price. But actually the amount of dollars backing each token after that cataclysmic apocalyptic event would actually be more than it was before it happened. So the system is designed so that MDB has very low downside potential. You can win or lose money depending on your entry and exit point. But the downside potential is much lower than the upside potential, which is exponentially higher. So we launched at about at 0.0025 cents, and we've always said we want to grow sustainably. Our goal is to sort of 10 times this year. Obviously we pulled back in the last couple of weeks, which is natural after a big run up, but that's that is MDB, and our system is it's all about reducing the number of tokens in circulation and upping the funds that we have within the protocol. And then we've got all these other utilities, whether it's the NFTs, whether it's Gravity, whether it's the NFT service that we provide for other projects. We've also then got our own stable backed assets which we invest in, and that also drives the value of MDB. Everything just comes back to that number one goal. Okay, so as I've just covered a lot on MDB, I just want to check the AMA questions channel before I run through the other assets, and see whether anyone's got any questions that they'd like answered. I think I've covered the buy and sell tax, and I think other people have covered as well. No questions here. Okay, right. So back to the D app. So Infinity uses a similar system to MDB, but it's almost like a D-Genny, very let's say, a much more volatile version of MDB. So has a very skinny LP, whereas MDB's LP is sort of, pushing around $1 million. The Infinity LP with native is only about $120,000. So it means it's very volatile, but the taxes are very low. So it's 5% buy and sell tax. But you can see there, for instance, the percentage change. It's up 30% on. I think there might be a glitch there actually because it's got the same number, but it's been moving around a lot. Sort of, for it to make 20-30% up or down movements is designed in that way, but it's also hyper deflationary. So the fund backing Infinity is pretty significant, and it's been doing fairly well actually in the last few weeks. So the fund is around 1.3 million. And actually about 2 million of that supply is non-circulating supply. So when you start getting down to the true circulating supply of Infinity as a token, it's about 100% backed by its funds at the moment. And that fund is very aggressive in terms of buying and burning back. Both MDB and Infinity you can also stake. MDB, you earn more MDB and it'll auto compound. You can see on our platform that there's 478 million MDB token stakes. That's I suppose a great reflection of the community and the belief that people have in the project long term. Infinity, you pay 5% to stake it and you pay 5% to leave, but the staking rewards are very high and you get paid in Infinity. So MDB pays you MDB, but Infinity pays you MDB. So the Infinity fund not only buys and burns Infinity, but it also buys MDB and distributes it. Again, just another sort of inbound sort of price pressure on MDB along with everything else. There's no farm. Another thing with MDB. So MDB is backed. It's 60% on BNB and it's 40% on MDB plus. Our plan is, as BNB recovers, to shift that more towards stable. I've always said that when BNB got back to 330, then we would shift either to 50-50 or 60-40 in favor of stable. And yesterday, I couldn't get everybody around on the multi-sig, and within an hour, it dropped back down. So we missed our opportunity yesterday. But next time it goes over 330, that's the number that we've kind of put as a target. Then we'll shift that LP more stable. So that's one of our teams. So it doesn't it has some of the appreciation of BNB, but only gets some of the downside when it crashes. And as BNB appreciates, we'll shift more of that to try and store that value on the stable side of the two LPs. Infinity is paired with Phoenix Plus, which I'll talk about in a second, which is one of our stable backed assets. So even with no buys or sells on Infinity, the LP would grow because it's paired with Phoenix Plus, which can only appreciate in value. So that's a great segue for us to go into that. I'll just check whether there's any questions regarding staking or of the two assets. Yeah, there's a myth that I work in my attic. It's not true. I think it just looks like that on camera. It's an office, and because I sit in the corner, it looks like that. So I just want to put that really important point to bed for watching me later. Question one: almost 80% of investors have just focused on price of token in short term instead of understanding the real value of the project. Can you tell us on motivations and benefits for investors to hold your token for a long term? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a fantastic question. I think that hurt. If I'm brutally honest, I think that hurts us to a certain degree because we have this, like, all of our APYs are variable. We don't guarantee any return. Anything that you see on Xenia is like evidence based because that's what's happened, not what we're promising and then can't live up to. I think that you get someone like, no shade on them, but it's an obvious example. Someone like Stable Fund can get 50 million liquidity offering crazy APY. So I think maybe in the industry, maybe that's one of my lessons, if I'm brutally honest, is that maybe I designed a protocol that me as an investor would want, and maybe a lot of people, they say they if they're rugged and they're losing their mind and why can't things just be sustainable, but then they struggle to stick in something that is sustainable because it's not exciting enough. So the real value of the project is that over time, mathematically speaking, you can earn passive income on your token. So your MDB in the farm pays great APY. Has never been below 100%, although you do have to pay the 15% tax to go in, which Conversely, that protects the APY because you don't get short-term speculators in there. It's people that are really long-term, and you can also earn, compounding staking rewards as well. And just look at the track record. We launched a week before Terra Luna. We've only operated in the most difficult of circumstances, but that's been a blessing and a curse, because I think it's given us the opportunity to stress test every protocol in no way that anyone could have imagined, and we've stood up very well under that test. So, it's a great indicator for what the future can look like over a long period of time. So I myself invest in our own protocol. If we had a huge crash, I wouldn't think twice about buying into my own project. So I don't know whether that answers the question, but long term, mathematically speaking, there's today's price. There's more than that. There's about 2.2 million tokens that we've bought and burnt and taken out of supply, and our fund is up 60% from what it was at the start. So that supply coming down and the fund going up, the ratio of those two numbers eventually just causes this, J curve, and a very aggressive price drops means much more supply, and it would improve those ratios even better. So anyway, I'm super bullish. I'm banging on. Hopefully that answers the question. Major achievements that the project has achieved. I think survival in this market is probably a major achievement. I'm extremely proud of the team. Of the community is just like beyond anything that I could have ever imagined. I'm really proud of Gravity because we've now got 9 projects. We've got another 4 or 5 that we're in negotiations with at the moment, and I'm the single biggest thing I'm proud of is that like half of our community has come through that process. So that, I'm super proud of that, and also like really proud of the community and the team, and the fact that we finished. It was a crazy week last week. The money's just starting to roll in today from all the work that we've done with the EMP project. But that's it. We're like, I've spent all day today. I've been working all morning. I've got meetings all afternoon, and we're working on the next thing. So, we don't sign off and sit on our hands. The first 6 months were crazy. The next 6 months are going to be 3 times that. So, I know it's salesman's talk, but that's about all I can say. Do you have to pay tax again on staking and farming the second time? Do you mean, so if you come out of the farm and then go back in, do you have to pay again? Just top opportunity. There's a question there. Here we go. If you're already staked or farmed. So there's no, so if it's infinity staking, whenever you move a token in or out, it's 5% tax, but the APY is very high. So I think it's about 60% plus. On MDB staking, there's no tax. There's only a tax if you come out within 30 days. And after that, there's no tax whatsoever. But if you do put more in, then it does restart the timer. For farming, every time you put fresh MDB into the farm, it will be taxed at 15%. But like I say, that works very well because it means that you don't go into the farm lightly, and that means that you don't get short-term speculators, and the APY is maintained at a very high level for people. Question: when LMS and rebases, there is no way MDB will survive the bear market with a strong team and without Ponzonomics. Is that a joke? I think it's probably a joke, right, Marvin? Yeah, he's put a laughing face. Okay, all right, you had me there for a second, mate. I was like, have we gone back 6 months? Brilliant. Okay, some great questions there. So just finishing off on Xenia. So we've got stable-backed assets. So the stable-backed assets are actually just BUSD deposited into a smart contract. The two are slightly different. So they're 100% backed by BUSD, both of them at all times, and they can only appreciate in value. Those two facts sound like a scam, but they're absolutely true, right? So MDB Plus charges you with very small tax when you go in, 0.75%. 0.25% come out. But that means that the USD call is always appreciating within the contract. It's unhackable. You can't get BUSD out of the contract other than redeeming MDB Plus for it. We as a team don't even have access to it, and that's a great place. If you're holding stables, just waiting for the bull run or whatever, they should be in our stable backed assets. Phoenix Plus has a higher tax at 2% in, 2% out, but you can be infernoed. Jesse Eckel covered it in one of his videos yesterday, actually. I think he's delivered something like, I think he made like 6.5% in 2 weeks. So I think he's probably, that was a couple of weeks ago I made that video, and I think he's still in. So he's sort of like 10% up in a month. So Phoenix Plus, you can be infernoed, but if you're infernoed, it means you basically cashed out into MDB Plus. So where there was Phoenix Plus before, there would now be MDB Plus, but you would pay 3% tax for being infernoed. So you won't get infernoed soon after going in, and actually infernos have been switched off for a little while. But the idea is that sort of it's about 1 in 20 chance of being infernoed. But the numbers are calculated in a certain way, which means the chance of you losing money is extremely small. The chance of you losing 1% is extremely small, but the probability of you gaining 5, 10, 15% is very high. And even there's been people that, have been in there and, it's a random selection. They weren't picked up for so long. They made like 25% whilst they were in there. So yeah, both Phoenix Plus and MDB Plus are stable backed assets. They're effectively smart contracts that are 100% backed by BUSD plus $1 at all times, and you can see those there. And then finally, I've mentioned the farm, so you can take BNB, pair it with MDB, put it in the farm. It's quite a high barrier to entry, but then that means that, like I say, the APY stays very high in the farm. We've actually got some protocol owned liquidity, which we've had in the farm, and we've been burning the rewards. So we've got 2 million MDB tokens to burn at some point in the next day or two. But we're starting to move that out actually, because actually 133% APY is fairly low for us. We've typically been average between 160 and 200. So we'd like that number to be higher. We want to encourage more people to go into the farm. So we're going to move some of the protocol owned liquidity out of the farm. It's still be paired. It just won't be staked. And you should, in the next sort of week or so, start to see that APY creeping back up towards 200% as a result of that action. Last piece is just the bonds. So the bond is effectively a tax-free purchase of MDB that is vested for 60 days. Now, if that was unlimited, then that would be a risk to the protocol. So you can only buy one bond every 24 hours. So if you look on the D app now, it says available in 0. That means you could buy a bond for 10 BNB now. It would buy 10 BNB of MDB tax-free. So you dodge that 10% tax. But then you can only claim it in 60 days from the D app. So people who have done this 60 days ago obviously avoided the tax and saw fantastic upside on their MDB. So if you believe in MDB long term, and often what people will do is they'll try and snag the bond when MDB is in a dip, because effectively then you're buying tax-free MDB whilst it's in a dip, which trying to compound that gain for you long term. So if somebody bought that bond right now, then you would see that timer would start at 24 hours and nobody would be able to buy another bond for 24 hours after one was bought. Cool. So I'm going to go back to questions now, because I've been banging on for a long time, and see any more questions around the protocol, and then we'll move on to the gravity process. Okay, it doesn't look like. Look, if you go, we've got the Academy. Also, we've got the YouTube channel, and there's lots of videos. Austin did a great summary video, actually, of MDB. We do have a couple of NFTs which I haven't covered, but they're both utility NFTs which pay passive MDB. One is the Infinity Yacht Club MDB NFT, which represents a certain board of infinity, and you receive infinity. So that's been paying 6-ish since that was launched. And then you have Phoenix Fire Club NFT, which has MDB locked in the contract, and it drips that MDB out as the supply burn down. So Yeah, but they're only available on the secondary market. They were both minted ecosystems. Where does the MDB for the bond come from? Is that a genuine question? I struggle with whether they're being serious or joking. So just in case it is a genuine question, so when you buy the bonds, you so when you buy the bonds, the BNB gets deposited into the LP, and the MDB is just held almost like an escrow, if you like, for you later on. So there's no secondary market for MDB tokens, and maybe that's the reason for the question, because maybe you're trying to trigger me into other people that maybe run bonds where they run a secondary market. We don't do that. You know, we're not selling MDB on the side. The BNB goes into the LP. Question there: does those MDB have a native token? I'm not sure. So in my language, I call the native token is MDB, which you would then pair with BNB in your liquidity pool. So I would call MDB the native token because it's ours. But maybe I'm misunderstanding the question. Yeah, and a good question here. So if someone from O0ze is new to MDB and let's say 1K to invest, what would you recommend? Not financial advice. It's a good question. I think it depends on if you had $1,000 and you wanted to split it up across the ecosystem, I think everybody would say join the Millionaires Club first. So buy $500 worth, stake that. You staked MDB, includes it, or you could take the other $500 and buy BNB and pair the 500 BNB with the MDB and just go straight into the farm. I think it takes a little bit of time to ROI on the farm because of the taxes, but then when you do ROI, the APY is really high. So over a long period of time, it pays really, really well. But at the same time, if you're sort of like holding on for your life and terrified of the industry, then maybe you want to take 500, put it in MDB, stake it, and take the other 500 and put it in Phoenix Plus, and then it's BUSD on steroids. And it's in all likelihood you're going to be earning probably 5 to 10% a month on a stable backed asset. So that's not financial advice, but just some ideas that I would throw out there. Yeah, Syrian. Sorry, it's $500 after taxes. So if you go in do slightly more than $500. Okay, so I'm going to get off these questions now, and so I can see you guys, and let's talk about the gravity process. Right, we've got a hand up. So let me just see those. So maybe this is a question. So I'm going to bring Awake and Arise in to ask a question. Bear with me.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi, man. Thanks for letting me speak. I actually had a question. So I was in O0ze from the beginning, right?
Yep.
I woke up this morning and literally just found out about this whole ecosystem today. So I apologize if I'm a little confused. It's just it's such a big project, you know. There's a lot of potential behind it, I think.
Thank you.
Anyway, so my question kind of would be, with smaller amounts of money, I didn't know what to do, so I ended up buying maybe $40 worth of MDB and just staking it. I'm wondering if that was like, you know, a good first step in the process of, you know, the most lucrative way to be and participate in this ecosystem.
Yeah, I think you know, the idea of anything, right, is that it has different levels of risk potential within it. So
Yeah,
I'd say the fundamental difference, often the question is farm or stake. Now, if you
exactly.
farm, yeah, with the farm, you've got impermanent loss. So I think if the price of MDB bounced around the same level for 6 months, then the farm would definitely the farm would definitely pay you more than staking over a long period of time. However, you have impermanent loss with the farm. So if one of those assets moons, for want of a better word, then
one of those assets being Infinity or MDB.
Yeah, you can't farm Infinity, but with MDB, and that did happen actually. So I think when we launched Senior, which is sort of a few months ago, or back in sort of June time, I think, then MDB, we were getting this supply squeeze on MDB anyway, and MDB very quickly did sort of a ×5. And so actually,
Wow.
if you're in the farm, which I actually do have, my bits of money left, right, and centre, I've just put in the farm because I trust my own project more than any, obviously.
Right.
Actually, if I hadn't been in the farm during that period, my MDB would have seen, I would have seen more appreciation just from the MDB. But at the same time, then when the price comes down a bit and bounces around a similar level for a while, the farm pays crazy rewards. So it's really difficult to say, but if you believe that MDB is going to 10x in the short term, then staking is the way. I think over time it's very difficult to say.
Well, so I started to piggyback off of that. The difference. What's the difference between MDB and Infinity? I mean, which token? Like, what are the use cases for Infinity versus MDB? Because I was wondering, which one to buy, and of course, I bought MDB. Considering that it was probably the native asset, but Infinity, I'm still confused on.
Yeah, it's a good question, and look, MDB and Infinity have similar characteristics. Sorry, they run on a similar system but have very different characteristics. So both of them are backed by funds that are large multiples of the LP, but the LP of MDB is pretty large, so the price is much more stable. And the taxes are much higher in MDB. So you wouldn't really trade MDB, right? You might buy it and then sell some later, or sell your rewards. Or another tactic is to sell if you owned 1% of supply, maybe as the burn is happening, you sell when you own 1.1%, you sell the 0.1%. There's a quite a sustainable way of taking profits. Whereas with Infinity, it's low taxes. It's only 5% tax in and out, and it's much more volatile. The LP is much smaller, so you'd get more price impact. But the fund is a much higher multiple of the LP. So I think the fund at the moment is about 23 times the size of the LP.
Gosh, some of that just went over my head a little bit, but I'm not financial advice, of course, but God, my phone died.
I can hear you. Okay, so I'll crack on. If Awake and Rise rejoins us, then we can we'll pick up the conversation again, because we've only got 15 minutes left. I want to cover sort of the process that we're going through at the moment. So the way Gravity works is, Gravity isn't sort of a paid service. There's no direct profit for sort of MDB throughout that process. It is, it's designed and it's executed in a way that provides a continued future where that isn't a possibility for whatever the reason is at that point in time. So we worked with the O0ze team over the last week, and obviously, I'm not saying it just because the guys are here either. You see the good, the bad, and the ugly doing Gravity, to be brutally honest. And I haven't seen a team and we've done some Gravities we've done where I've had really good things to say about the team. So it's no slight on anyone else, but I've never been involved in a Gravity where the team has just said over and over again, we want the best thing for our holders at this point in time. And you can see that the guys from O0ze were really diligent. They put us through our paces. We had to, they wanted to really understand what it was we do, how sustainable it is, and they wanted to make sure they weren't going to look back in 3 months' time and regret going through this decision. So they took that decision sort of like very professionally and carefully, and you can take full assurance from me that they definitely have got your best interests at heart. Ultimately, then we work with the team of the protocol that's effectively being absorbed. And the first piece of what we do is we is they will send us the liquidity, which happened on the weekend. I think it was Saturday, maybe Sunday. I think it was Saturday. Don't hold me to it. It was Saturday, I'm sure. It's been a crazy week last week, and then at that point, what we do is we typically call a strike price. And now we haven't been completely sure how long it would take to do the drop, but we've received the liquidity, and then we work with the team to try and understand, well, what does the pie look like? So the team are working through the assets that everybody owns, putting a nominal value on the assets that's deemed as fair, so that then you can basically calculate if there is 100K and somebody owns 1 of 100, that they should get 1%. So it's just about understanding, how big is the pie? How many people does it need to be shared out? And based on the holdings of each one of those people, what percentage of that pie do they receive? So I've been working with the guys, they've been absolutely flat out, moving really quickly on that as well. So we're just going through final checks on the data. You can see that we've got the wallet collect open. However, whether we need to use that or not, I think we've got some discussions, and we'll have an announcement, in the coming hours on that. And then ultimately what we do is just make sure we do our due diligence on the data. It's the sort of thing that once you've sent all the liquidity, it's gone, right? Once we've sent all of the MDB tokens out to you guys, then it's gone. We can't get it back. So we need to just make sure that, there's no mistakes on our side. And then we will announce a drop date. And we're moving very quickly. So I would expect that drop to happen in pretty short time, actually, within the next sort of 24, 48, worst case 72 hours is what I would expect. And what you will be dropped is whatever that sum is, you get dropped MDB. You do get it tax-free. So there's no entry tax for that MDB. So you are getting a token that's backed by, millions of dollars, but you're not having to pay the entry tax. And obviously, then you've got a number of options with that. You can just hold it, you could stake it, you could pair it with BNB, and you could farm it. And obviously, you are free to sell it if you wish. MDB is designed to, withstand sales long term, and that's completely your prerogative. And we want investors, not prisoners. But at the same time, we'd be delighted to see the community grow, and for as many of you as possible to stick around. But at the same time, at the end of the day, they're your funds. We do have to go through a process. So we hold, for full transparency, we hold a float of MDB always as a protocol, because sometimes gravities come like really fast. And we have other utilities sometimes that we need it for. So we always hold a float. So what we'll now do is go through a process where we've started to accumulate some of the supply that's required. We do still have some supply. So, if you're thinking, I might invest in MDB, not financial advice, because you never know what's going to happen on the free market. But we are in a position where, we do have to acquire a lot of MDB in a very short space of time over the next few days to facilitate that drop. And at the same time, then we're also in a position where we have to refill that float. There will be more gravities. As I mentioned, we've got 4 or 5 in discussion at the moment already. So we know that we always need more MDB. So the protocol will continue to buy MDB, as well as all the other utilities post that drop also. So that's the process. If anyone's got any questions on the process, I'm happy to take questions on that as well now. Good question. If at all, how would MDB fail? Yes, it's a good question. I think No Name's really hit the nail on the head. Obviously, our job is to minimize risk and spread risk, and you do have winners and losers in investing, right? And we take responsibility, and we have to just take it on the chin when it doesn't go well. And so we try and spread the risk so that we can manage things that are outside of our control. At the same time, everything that we do is managed across multi-sigs. We have sign-off processes internally. If we spot new investments, then we go through various degrees of due diligence, and we'll kick out investments if they don't pass that process. And it's extremely difficult for MDB to fail, right? I think almost every protocol that is designed has the ability to go minus 95%. Mathematically speaking, it's incredibly hard for MDB to see that sort of depreciation. Certainly over a long period of time. It could happen in a short period of time, obviously. If 100 million tokens was suddenly sold in the chart, it would decimate the LP. However, the price would be so low that the trust fund could accumulate a huge percentage of supply, and then actually the funds backing the remaining tokens proportionately would be higher than they were before. So yeah, very, 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 very difficult to kill MDB. It would take a huge screw up, to be honest, for that to be possible. Just looking, yeah, BSC dying, I suppose, is another one. But yeah, apart from things that basically would, bring down pretty much all of crypto, it's very, very difficult for MDB to fall apart. And at the same time, I would see in protocols early days, and people would say, copium in SafeMoon. People would say, well, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna wait for V2, and then I'm just gonna close my wallet and not look at it for 2 years. And it is a very challenging space. And we built MDB so that if you want to buy it and just earn passive rewards and just leave it, you can. And and also I can sleep easy at night knowing that the protocol's safe. Any other questions? Phone died. Don't be like a previous Gravity in sell to watch it go up 50 to 100%. Yeah, and the good thing with the Gravity process, actually, it's not just about your project, it's about many projects. So it's about creating a supply squeeze and also inflating our funds at the same time that support the protocol. So the idea is that, we've got Gravity with O0ze this week, we have a Gravity with someone else next week, Gravity with someone else the following month. But you're early down. Like I said, we did our first Gravity just over 6 months ago on the day we launched. Those guys got in at 0.0025. Obviously, very happy. So the average performance of people that would have held from Gravity to this point in time is something like 320% plus. Yeah, our protocol is designed so that the last person would be the best person, not the worst hit person, which is obviously how most crypto projects are designed. Just looking. Can you please explain the calculation behind the wallet drops once again? Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, look, there is a pie, yeah, and the pie is the liquidity within the protocol, just being brutally honest, right? So if you've got $1 million in that pie and you owned 1% of all of the assets within the protocol, then your value would be 10,000. So we know what the pie is. The pie is about $432,000, and we and the guys on the O0ze side have been working really hard to work out, okay, well, what is the nominal value of all of the assets, to work out what share of the pie everyone would have. So I think we're almost there in terms of that. And then we can share that sheet. It's completely transparent. You'll be able to see your wallet on there, and you'll be able to see how that has been calculated and what percentage of that 432,000 you would receive. And then that will be dropped to you in MDB. Hopefully that answers the question. Conscious we've only got 5 minutes left, so I want to make sure we cover any Gravity project for stable fund. That would be interesting. Yeah, I think that's it. There's maybe a couple of people maybe typing questions now, so I'll see what those questions are. There you go. Somebody got their refund this morning, so they're more than happy. Is there an option to choose MDB Plus? There is not. And I think that's it. Yeah, so I think we covered all of the questions. I think, our protocol is something that I think if you put a lot of love and energy into learning it, you can see, it's such an infectious community. There's a reason for that. But if you, I'd recommend you do that. So we've got a couple of people who want to ask questions. So Wake and Rise, I'll bring you, and then Dr. Crypto, I'll bring you, and then we're going to close things off. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to, Dr. Crypto, I've just invited you.
Thank you, sir. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hello.
Absolutely fine. How are you?
So, yeah, I'm a little lost like the guy who got dropped off. I'm familiar with crypto, but I'm definitely not a DeFi expert. So a lot of this is confusing as hell. Yeah. I wanted to try to find out if there's a video or some kind of simple explanation to how
you get our wallet and we get this airdrop or refund or whatever you call it. I'm just trying to figure out what's the first step for me because I'm lost.
Problem. Well, look, I think in short, you will have a wallet address which is on the blockchain. We will have that wallet, right? There is only so much liquidity in a project, right? When it wraps up. The question is, how much does Dr. Crypto own percentage wise of that protocol? Now, if it's 0.1% or 1%, then that would drive the amount dollar value of MDB that you would get dropped to you. So that calculation is happening right now. So I've already seen sort of the draft list, and it's just going through final checks at the moment, which has all of the wallet addresses and a percentage there. And it would be very easy then from those numbers to work out what's going to be inbound. That would be dropped direct to your wallet. So it would be dropped to you on BSC chain. So
I'm sorry. So do I need to add the MDB address to my Binance, to my BNB wallet?
Yeah, to your BNB wallet. You don't want to be using a central exchange wallet. So whether it's MetaMask or Trust Wallet, you want it to be a hot wallet, and you would add MDB to it. But honestly, if you go into our main chat, there's everybody's super helpful. People would be more than happy to help talk you through the process as well.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, great to meet you. Hopefully, I hope you stick around with MDB, and I appreciate you taking the time to come up. Okay, cool. So on that note, we're going to wrap up. Just checking, was there anything? Oh, there we go. So we got a couple of questions just when we think it's over. Q1, when the rebrand takes place, will investors follow the rebrand, e.g. we follow the holding company rather than a small portion like a division? I'm not completely sure on the question. I know there's, I'm not really sure on the question, to be honest. Switch over to revenue share. Can an option be to pay out a portion, an investor portion, into liquidity? Say switch over to revenue share. I'm a little bit lost as well. So you're going to receive MDB tokens of the dollar value proportionate to the percentage of the protocol that you owned within O0ze. So you'll receive them as tokens, and obviously you could sell those tokens, you can stake those tokens, you could farm those tokens, or you could just hold on to them. It's completely up to you. Will there be revenue produced that will be used to pay out to holders, pay out star holders? I'm not sure on the question. I'm not sure if I'm misunderstanding. Maybe these questions are relating to something or someone else. Maybe I'm not sure. The tokens are rewarded through rewards depending on whether you stake them, farm them, or actually the primary goal of MDB is to reduce supply and increase the funds and have an exponential impact on the price of the token itself. So number one is seeing it grow. And just to check number 4, are the plans to become a legal entity? Absolutely, and something that we're working through at the moment. And I think that's it. So we're bang on time now. We're a minute over. Obviously, we've got the O0ze lobby there. So any questions you've got, feel free to reach out. But please, I think whenever we have a lobby for people that are new, I think the plus side is it gives you like a sort of a nice, comfortable place to start where you're surrounded by people from the protocol you've come from. I think the downside of that is that it can maybe be a bit of a stepping stone to then go into the main community. So I would recommend get into the main community, ask these questions, get involved with the guys. You'll see, 90% of people that are in the community every day, they're almost every day and super supportive and helpful and been through this process many times. A lot of the people that will be answering questions to you have come through a lobby themselves previously as well. So they're completely aware of sort of maybe the process you're going through and the learning curve. And yeah, and I just want to say thank you as well to the youth team. I can see that a couple of them are here now as well, and it's been an absolute pleasure to work with the guys. I said to them, I was slightly regretful that we didn't get an opportunity to partner with those guys actually previously, because yeah, a great bunch of guys. So just want to thank them publicly as well, and yeah, look forward to talking to you all and working with you all over the coming 6, 12, 18 months, 5 years, and having some great success. Take care.